Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Atrium Research's YouTube channel. Today, I have the pleasure of interviewing Jeff Swinoga, the president and CEO of Exploits Discovery Corp., which trades on the CSE under the symbol NFLD and on the OTC under the symbol NFLDF. We currently cover exploits with research and have a buy rating and 15-cent per share target price, recently up from 10 cents per share. Jeff, great to have you here today.
Well, thanks, Ben. Actually, this is I think our first interview, or did we do one
This
before? I can't.
is Yeah,
Yeah,
this is our first time.
there's been so much going on the last 4 months. It's just been, but this is a great time to start talking about the company after all the stuff we've done. So, yeah.
Exactly, and it'll sort of set the stage for 2026. So with that, Jeff, I know you have a presentation for us. I'm going to leave it to you to walk us through that presentation. If I do have any questions throughout the presentation, I'll jump in, but at the end we can do some Q&A and have a more of a discussion in the back half.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I guess maybe I'll start off by saying that we've really transformed this company. And for the last 4 or 5 years, we've been in Newfoundland, kind of following Newfound Gold's lead, what they were doing. And then we made a decision to actually pick up or buy resources, gold resources in the ground, when gold is around $2,000 an ounce. So that decision was probably made about a year ago. And so we knew we had a willing buyer with Newfound Gold. And so we went through so many different properties, understand, what kind of projects made sense for us, where do you want to be? And Quebec and Ontario were, of course, rose to the top. And so we were able to pick up four great properties, roughly about 680,000 ounces of gold in historic resources. And then we looked to Newfound, and they did a deal with Maritime, and they, of course, wanted our land position to the north. And so great continuity from what they started, and did a great deal. So basically, we're taking back shares in Newfound Gold. The current valuation is probably about $11 million right now. It started off at 7, but the share price went up, so now we're at 11. There's a 4-month hold period, so we don't get access to those shares until April. Last time we reported September 30th, we had $2.6 million in cash. So you sort of add up the pro forma, the cash balance that we had at that point, and then we added the $11 million current valuation from Newfound. Basically, you get about 12, 13, $14 million, depending on how you value those shares. And then our market cap is roughly about 12 million right now. So we like to say, we're basically trading at pro forma cash value and probably just below. And this doesn't even include the properties that we have. It doesn't include the 680,000 ounces of gold in the ground with these resources. So certainly we're at this inflection point. So a lot of things have happened over even just the last 4 or 5 months. So we secured the projects. We announced a deal to sell to Newfound Gold under the terms I mentioned. Oh, we also get a 1% royalty. Forgot to mention that.
Mm-hmm.
So and on great properties right on the Appleton Fault, right? Like, they're going to be mining those, at some point in the future. So super pleased about that. Anyway, so did the Newfound Gold, announced a great surface samples, grab samples at Fenton this week, up to 48 grams. So Fenton's a high grade property. I'll probably spend more of the presentation on Fenton, if that makes sense, the gold property. And then we announced a charity flow through deal. And a small traditional one, actually just yesterday. And it's amazing the support we're getting in Quebec. Some of the big funds like SIDEX and NQ. We're really pleased. I guess how we approached them, the opportunity that we have, the fact that we're well pro forma wise cashed up.
Yep.
And we're very serious about making an impact with these projects. We have the money to do it. We did want to start drilling in the winter months. And that's why this deal was so well timed, because we don't have access again to the $11 million worth of Newfound shares until April. But we've got January, February coming up, and some of the high grade areas that we want to drill, the ground conditions, we just want to make sure they're solid, and frozen's also better, from a drill perspective. So doing them sooner than later to create catalysts for our shareholders, I think is really important. So sorry, Ben, I'm kind of going on,
No, no,
but
no. This has been a great quick intro obviously a lot has gone on over the last 2 years, sort of setting you up to where you are today, but it does set the stage. And I guess now you are where you are now. Of course, the cash that's going to be coming in April, um, you know, the same size as your market cap right now, right?
Yeah,
And being a junior explorer in great jurisdictions with existing historic resources, a lot of that initial legwork's already done. So
yeah.
those properties that you have, which you'll get into in the presentation here, are quite prospective. And with the capital that is non-dilutive to shareholders, from an investor's standpoint, this would be a highly attractive story to get in on the ground level.
Yeah, we're getting more traction than because it's still early days and we haven't started drilling it starting in January. But even I was at the Brian London conference in New Orleans, and Brian covers a number of different companies, and same with us. And Chris Temple just started covering us as well, which is great, great two individuals. And Brian stepped in front of 1,000 people, high net worth individuals, said, went through each of his companies and said, "Here's exploits discovery." Basically trading at cash value, almost
Mhm.
700,000 ounces of gold for free. I mean, you can't ask for a better deal than that. So we're one of the stocks that haven't really moved yet with the higher gold
Exactly.
price. Again, we did these option deals when gold was around $2,000 an ounce, and now gold's 4,300. So
Mhm.
so that even just that movement in the last 6 months, it has not been recognized. So I think there's going to be a lot of excitement. I'm super excited about the drill program coming up at Fenton. People ask about capital allocation, which is the best bang for buck, and Fenton really just rises to the top. Fenton, Wilson, and probably you look at Hawkins and Benoit in similar kind of status. So
Mhm.
so very pleased to be where we are. So yeah. Do you want me to go through the presentation at all? Do you want me to kind of
Yeah, maybe we'll pull the presentation up for the viewers. Again, this is our first time chatting in an interview format, so it might be good for them to see some visuals into some of these projects. And you mentioned Fenton being sort of the priority asset at this point. It might be good to touch on Fenton in a little bit more detail.
Yeah, sure. It's always kind of good to look at a map and see where we are,
Hmm.
and it just kind of just shows the transformation we've had, of course. So first we picked up the Hawkins property, over 300,000 ounces in Ontario near Timmins, great jurisdiction. Again, Eric Sprott owns 14% of this. If you don't know, he's been a great founding shareholder for us. Then we picked up three properties from Cartier Resources, and honestly a win-win for both companies. So Fenton, Wilson, and Benoit, all in a great jurisdiction between Val-d'Or and Chibougamau. And then here's the sale of our properties to Newfound Gold, kind of completing that transformation. And again, this is the old cash number. Our current cash number is 2.6 million. No
Hmm.
debt. Of course, Ericsson and very good team on the ground and board. I won't go through the details of this, but really it's about $11 million in value. We have an NSR, great deal for both companies. Sort of they get what they want, we get what we want in terms of our transformation. And it's really created a solid foundation for growth here. Again, being well capitalized, but almost 700,000 ounces of gold, great jurisdictions, and three of the projects in Quebec are high grade. And it's always great to have, grades king in many different scenarios. And with Hawkins in Ontario, it's just big, 60
Hmm.
kilometers, district scale, near like great projects like Alamos's Island and Magino, and Hemlo's off to the west, and Timmins off to the east. So really, really well positioned in terms of jurisdiction. Again, if you we didn't have a resource, gold resource in Newfoundland. So over the last 6 months, you can see we've grown the resources in the ground, historic, and the ones that in Quebec, like Fenton and Wilson, they're non-compliant. They were done back in the 1990s.
Hmm.
Uh, but a lot of drilling's been done since. If you look at from the EV perspective, you can argue that we're trading basically at zero or below zero. So you're basically getting the gold for free. So, so our share price has responded in this transformation. If you go back 8 months ago, we were trading around 3 or 4 cents, and then you can see as we announced our Ontario property, the Quebec property, the sale, we're
Hmm.
trading roughly around 6.5, 6, 7 cents right now. And depending on how you value the shares in Newfound, these are the old prices. The new prices are closer to 350 and $4.
Yep.
So yeah, a near-term producer, which is fantastic. Capital structure very clean. 185 million shares outstanding. That doesn't include the most recent deal with the charity flow through with the Quebec funds.
Okay.
But yeah, no warrants. Every time we've raised a bit of money, we never really needed to raise warrants or issue warrants. Options are less than this. Some have expired. We're around 6 million options right now. Very good volumes. We trade, as you mentioned at the opening of this interview, on the CSE and the OTC. Yeah, so capital structure is very clean. I've been in mining for over 25 years. Big companies like Barrick Gold, Torex Gold, North American Palladium, First Mining, a CEO there for a while, head of EY's mining practice, and came out and started running this company. So very pleased. Natalie used to be the VPX for the previous company that had the Hawkins property, as I mentioned, near Timmins. So she's super smart, PhD. Mark Richardson, I've known Mark for a long time. Again, another super smart geologist helping out in Quebec. Fiona's a great CFO. Doug Cater, he's our chair, great individual. He used to be the former head of exploration for Kirkland Lake, so knows Eric really well, Eric Sprott. Siri does sustainability work. Is great at that. Rod is a very smart sort of economic geologist running his own sort of research practice. And Larry Short runs a very successful wealth management practice. So super pleased to have such a great management team as well as board. And then looking at some of the properties here, we're going to go through some of the graphics. Again, this is the overview of Canada. And you can see Hawkins is off to the west near Timmins, and you've got our 3 properties in Quebec. We're going to focus on the Quebec properties first. And this is such a fantastic area. Over 100 million ounces of gold have been produced. You've got great companies like Agnico Eagle, IM Gold in Val-d'Or here. You got Chibougamau up here. And then our properties are sort of just in that line to there. And so here you can see IM Gold's properties, and they just did a deal with Northern Superior, right? They took over that property play in here. I don't know, Ben, you correct me if I'm wrong, it's about a $300 million deal. So this area has been really heating up from that perspective. So very pleased. There's also the Bachelor Lake Mill that's close by to us. It's been on care and maintenance for a couple of years, but I think it's 1,200 tons per day, and it could be expanded to 1,800 tons per day. So if at some point in the future where we get to a mining scenario, then there are mills close by that we could use. So super pleased. This is just an overview in Fenton. You can see a beautiful looking rock. You can see the location near Chibougamau. It's almost like golden chimneys, if you will, sort of high grade underground opportunities here. This resource has just over 63,000 ounces at a grade of, I think, about 5. So it's a really good opportunity. You've got really high grade, like 356 grams over 0.6. That's part of a 42 gram over 5 meter situation. You've got 14 over 5 meters. You've got 13 over 4. Really good grades. So very, very pleased to see that. And that's always what a fantastic start. And then when we did our site visit, you can see the outcrop there is just it's 300 meters of outcrop just off a road. You can see the channel samples that they were cutting into the rock prior to us optioning it. And here's Phil at Cartier taking some samples for us. But it's just and the sulfides. If you're not a geologist, the sulfides pyrite, that's kind of where the gold is. And you can actually you break off. I got a piece of rock here, Ben. I'm not sure if you can see it, but you can smell it. It's just what a great opportunity, near surface, high grade gold. It goes down about I think 600 meters. So very pleased to have this property. And then I'll kind of go through it. So looking down upon the property, there's a diabase dike kind of going through it. And then this is a mag survey that was done, that you can see the sort of these got the diabase dike going through. Can you see my cursor, Ben? Can you see
Yes,
the cursor?
I can. Yep.
Okay, excellent. So here's the diabase dike going through it. Here's the mag anomalies kind of going through. And this survey was done, back in 2020, so it's relatively new in the last 4 or 5 years. When they had that resource back in the 1990s, it was published in 2000. They didn't have this type of survey available to them, right? So a lot of work has been done since the resource was disclosed, and
Right.
I think over 10,000 meters of drilling since then too. So you can see all these high mag opportunities that kind of show up. And then if you look at it from this perspective, now we're getting into sort of the 3D. But you've got the small historic resource here, non-compliant because it was before 43-101, and there's the high grade hits up here, like the 42 grams over 5 meters, including the 356 over 0.6. And you say, okay, well, this kind of lines up, right? Because the mag sort of identifies the sulfide and the pyrite from a conductivity perspective. And then you sort of say, okay, where's the resource? Well, it's where you would expect it to be,
Great.
right? It's
Mm-hmm.
right, it's right there. And so it really, from a predictive model or mineral systems perspective, you can say, okay, well, here's a high mag area. There's 64,000 ounces here. You look at all these other mag areas that have not been tested yet, and you go, wow, what a fantastic opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
So when you look underground, you can see how the these are the drill hits, and of course purples and reds are high grade, how things are really well behaved and they line up. And so there might be a series of lenses here, but you can see there's maybe a controlling feature on either side. But super pleased to see how these line up. And then also there's things called Maxwell plates, and these are just highly conductive 2D representations of that conductivity, as I mentioned. So when you look at where those plates are shown, you can see it lines up again where the old resource was.
Right.
But the other areas that have not been tested, where there could, it looks highly conductive, that could represent, more, the duplicate or more resources, not just what was here was shown.
Mm-hmm.
So we're super pleased with the way kind of Fenton's being developed. Like we've had this property for maybe just about 6 months, but we've done a lot of work to really understand the mineral system. Like a lot of junior exploration companies would just go in and drill the resource, but they wouldn't maybe necessarily take the time to understand where the other opportunities are. So that's the time we've taken. Of course, we did spend a lot of time with the sale of Newfound to share the claims and everything else to kind of get to this point. But now we're at the point where we want to drill, right? Supported by the Quebec funds, we're going to be drilling this in January, and we're going to be going after a lot of the high grade areas, a lot of areas where they show the conductivity. And the reason we're drilling in January is just because the ground conditions are so much better, and it gives us very good opportunities to kind of drill exactly where we want, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yep.
So Wilson is the one a little bit further south and to the west, very similar to Fenton. I'm not going to go through all of it with Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
We want to drill Wilson as well, because again, very high grades, underground, kind of gold chimneys, if you will. And so you've got the 2 cent kind of gabbro zone shown here. It's got over 40,000 ounces. That was again done back in the 1990s, non-compliant, but what a great starting point. And again, sorry, I didn't spin around. Let me just spin around briefly. But you can see, again, looks very well behaved. Looks
Right.
kind of like, typical Abitibi kind of steeping down there. So we're very pleased to see that. And then Benoit. Benoit's got 240,000 ounces. It's in the, so here's the resource here. It's in the sort of bay of a lake here. But a lot of gold mines and mines have been mined under water features.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got 15 meters of water above here. Then you've got 70 meters of crown pillar, which is mineralized but not shown. And then you get into the resource. Again, very well behaved. A lot of anomalies here. They did drilling from the shore there, and also on barge. And I'm going to show you some of the 3D that's here. So look at this, eh? Look how well behaved this is. So it just looks like it keeps going down.
Right.
And And another thing to note here is that you can see that there's a drill pad right here. So they were drilling from here. They're drilling on barge during the wintertime. But
Hmm.
what a great opportunity to maybe even set up a drill here pad here and start drilling, or even like a portal. But then you look at the IP anomalies that were shown here. Um, a lot of these have never been tested. So you've got the resource here. You've got some that are further north into the lake, and then you've got some on ground on surface. But again, look at that drill pad I mentioned.
Right.
If they knew this anomaly was here, again, this survey was done back in 2021. If they knew that anomaly was here, they would just spin the drill around and
Hmm.
drill into it, right? But that hasn't been done. So what a great opportunity to, from a drill target perspective, to maybe replicate potentially that resource onto another area that's actually a little bit easier to get after.
Right.
So yeah, so even though Benoit, you might say, oh, geez, it's under a bay of a lake, need to be concerned. There's the footprint, or the potential for other anomalies onshore, or even further at depth at Benoit, is certainly there. So we really like Benoit as well, the way it hangs together.
Hmm.
Um, the Hawkins property, I mentioned, great jurisdiction. You've got Hemlo here. Again, we're in Ontario, near Timmins. You've got Alamos's Magino, and you've got their island project. You got the Sugar Zone over here. This is 60 kilometers that we've optioned here through Pavey and what a great jurisdiction. And Timmins is over here. So I kind of call this a sirloin steak, right? The way it kind of looks. But you've got the Pascuda deformation zone going all the way through it. The 328,000 ounces of resources is only within 1.5 kilometers of this zone. So again, 60 kilometers, only 1.5 is been identified as a resource, but lots of other areas that uh, uh, could yield some benefits here for our shareholders. So yeah, so what you have here is geologically the amphibolites to the north. You've got the tonalites to the south. You can see how it lines up. You see the contact area is right through there, and the contact area looks like it continues from a mag perspective, and I'll go through that in a second. But just focusing on the resource, you've got sort of the greens and yellows are lower grade, and you've got the hot spots of the higher grade being in the sort of the purples and the reds. So lots of opportunities at depth, lots of
Yeah.
opportunities along strike. So very pleased. The only thing we're saying is that, again, a lot of junior companies would just look at this and say, let's start drilling it, and trying to find the high grade. And that's not off the table for us. But what we see is this contact zone. Again, here's a mag survey. The low blue mag area here, look at it continues to the
Hmm.
east. So there's another 3.5 kilometers of contact zone that show good trenching on surface, good grades on surface, but probably continuous. So if we can pick up another 100, 200,000 ounces there, that would be great. But the way we look at this overall property is it's huge. It's 60 kilometers, and this has really been the area of focus for a number of years. But what Natalie is telling us is that looks like there's a this contact zone continues all the way through here, and there's like a double fold nose here.
Right.
And then you have these other great hits historically, like 40 grams over a meter over here from Falconbridge back in the 1980s even. You've got a 19 ppm gold hit at Lake Sediment, which is huge. So I mean, we feel the full land package here really isn't understood. So we could be focusing on, extending this, go from 300,000 ounces to call it to 500,000 ounces in drilling and so forth, focus on the drillers, but we could be missing something much larger here. You know what I'm saying? So
Hmm.
so so she's looking at this from a whole, mineral system perspective, a holistic perspective, to really understand the system better. So we can find something that would be, if it could be something massive like Hemlo, which would be fantastic. So she's taking her time to kind of make sure that we're doing this property justice. So
Yeah.
anyway, so near term, it's going to be Fenton, probably then Wilson. We've been doing a lot of work on the ground. We have a geophysical survey at Fenton that we're coming out with in a couple of weeks as well. It's going to help us with some, refining some of the drill targeting that we're doing. And yeah, so in summary, trading at cash, great opportunity at Fenton coming up on drilling, um, uh, well supported by the Quebec funds. And You've got a great team on the ground, great board, well supported by Eric Spot and others. So yeah, so Ben, that's kind of our presentation. Yeah.
Hmm. No, thank you, Jeff, and I think that was sort of a perfect overview in terms of um, highlighting the what's already there, all the work that's already been done. A few of those projects having resources on them really help you, historical resources, albeit, really help you um, plan your exploration campaign and quite frankly save you costs going forward, right? It's not greenfield exploration. So despite having all this cash coming in the next handful of months, you're still able to, already have that head start on a typical sort of greenfields project.
Yeah.
Um, I guess on Fenton, can you just talk about the drill program that you laid out quickly for that project that you're planning to do in Q1?
Yeah, no, great. And sorry if I skipped over some of the details there. It's going to be about 3,000 to 5,000 meters. And we actually been spending a lot of time going through exactly where they drilled historically. And again, they did another over 10,000 meters of drilling after the resource. So a lot of the
Hmm.
information's there. The geophysical survey that was currently there in 2020, and we redid it because the way they did the lines, they did it parallel to the diabase dike. And what we did is we did perpendicular. So we basically wanted to triangulate and make sure that, so the detail that we're going to see in this geophysical report is going to really highlight those transition zones, right? So those mag areas. And they're going to be like 50 meter by 50 meter sort of cubes. So and when you're drilling, you only, the drill hole's only so big. And
Yep.
so any further refinement you can get to be more accurate, to kind of identify those high grade zones that maybe continue on strike or at depth. That's going to be the key. So really, watch out for this press release that we're going to have. We'll probably be ready to issue it in about 2 weeks or so. Maybe it's in the new year with the geophysical, but it's going to really kind of highlight where the drilling opportunities are based
Great.
on where the sulfides and the connectivity. So yeah. And
Great.
so drilling program is funded now, of course. It was funded really before, but when you have $2.6 million in cash and going into a drilling program, you want to make sure that you're not getting too low on your cash balance. We could borrow against the newfound shares if we want to, but we're not looking to do that right now.
Yeah.
But again, if we hit something big at Fenton, I mean, it's going to be fantastic. So we're
Hmm.
very
Well,
pleased.
and 10,000 meters since that resource is it's a lot of drilling, right? I imagine that resource hypothetically is already substantially larger than that. I think it's roughly 90,000 ounces. Correct me if I'm wrong.
60, yeah,
60,
64,000.
sorry.
Yeah.
And I guess just uh, going beyond Fenton to Wilson, are you planning on drilling, or what does that exploration sort of plan look like right
For
now?
Wilson? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Wilson could be within that drill program as well.
Okay.
It depends on the speed of when we get the assays back. So we do have some great targets at Wilson too. So we,
Mhm.
we might move the drill there. Just depends on what we're seeing when we're drilling. And then do we stay on Fenton? Do we move to Wilson? Like my plan would be, in the best scenario would be just to keep the drill turning, right?
Right. Yeah.
Maybe even add a second or third drill, if you like what you see. Because could you imagine gold starts running towards 5,000? We started getting recognized for what we're doing, and again,
Hmm.
we're at this inflection point where we're in this transformation, kind of coming out of the transformation, if you will. And then, and hitting some high grades with a gold price that's moving, it would just be great for us. And as you mentioned, I don't know if I could actually disclose what we think about what would happen to the resource with all the previous drilling. I wanted to stay careful on that,
Hmm.
but yeah, no, again, yeah, great comment. Wilson does have a lot of great opportunities. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I guess the rest of the exploration plan, right? It's nice that you have several assets where maybe they're at different phases. Some might not be drill ready. You're looking at Hawkins to sort of assess the larger land package to see what potential might not be considered yet. I
Yeah.
guess from that perspective, you're able to do all these different types and levels or stages, if you want to call it, of exploration across the different projects. So in that, news heavy, right? Doing
Yeah.
lots of work across all the properties. Maybe you can just touch on that.
Yeah, no, and great comment, Ben, because a lot of companies they have one property, and if it doesn't pan out, then doesn't so be it. You took your risk, you drilled and so forth. But having four properties, multiple opportunities to and at various stages. So we've actually created the pipeline. So you argue say, okay, well, you're going to sell your claim to newfound gold. You've got one property. You're going to put everything on, but we actually picked up four in total. And the Cartier agreement that we have with Fenton, Wilson, and Benoit, it's very flexible. So we could keep one, drop two, keep
Hmm.
two, drop one. We could spend all the money on Fenton, and that would apply to Wilson and Benoit, so we can
Yeah.
keep them in inventory. So yeah, so again, Fenton first because of what we see in terms of the staging. Wilson probably second. Whether it's Benoit or Hawkins after that, we'll have to see. But the work's going to continue on all the properties, right? Just
Yeah.
to make sure that pipeline is continuing being driven to create value for our shareholders, if that makes sense. Or we want to drill each one of them. I just want to make sure that level of confidence is at a high level because drilling is expensive,
Hmm.
and we certainly, even though we're well cashed up, we really care about the efficiency and the effectiveness of how we spend our money,
Yeah.
because we know that that money could be used up quite easily. But we want to make sure that we're targeting and we're doing the work up front so that when we actually start drilling, we have a high degree of confidence of what we're going to hit.
Hmm. And the best part is that if you do discover, something where you are able to add a second rig and you can really start hitting the meterage, you have a significant amount of cash sitting there ready to deploy in, again, a non-dilutive way. And ideally, the share price can start to rise and all the good things that come with that. I'm glad you mentioned the Cartier structuring there on the three assets, because that is something we talked about in our initiation report that is notable, right? You have these different options in which you can target. If one doesn't work out, not a big deal. You can go to the next, but at least um, that project spend, if you're focusing on Fenton and it continues to yield fruit, then you can keep working there and keep advancing that project and not needing to pivot to another just to hit the expenditures. Um, just on the drilling across all assets, are you able to drill year round?
You can, yeah, you can drill a year round on all of the assets. It's just a level of difficulty at getting, like for example, if we want to drill Fenton in the summertime, in some of the areas we want to drill, some of the areas are could be a bit wet,
Hmm.
it could be a bit soft.
Hmm.
But again, it goes back to this efficiency. So it made complete sense to us with Sidex and NQ, take a bit of charity flow through from those guys, and it's great to work with, honestly, super to work with, and actually start drilling it in because honestly, I don't think our shareholders want us to wait till the summer months or anything,
Yeah.
until we
Yeah.
got access to 11 million because time is valuable. We want to make sure that when one of the properties is ready to drill, let's get to it, right?
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
but yeah, to your question, Ben, yeah, they can be drilled year round. It's just maybe it takes a little more time to access certain areas when the ground's a bit soft.
Yep, yep, understood. And I think, like you said, you want to start doing work as soon as possible. The market is doing well. People are being rewarded for strong results, and so it's great timing. And I guess just to sort of summarize on a few notes that I took, the zero warrants I think is a very notable aspect, especially for a smaller cap company that someone coming in or someone selling stock, the stock can really move materially. But with no warrants, it doesn't have that lid, right? So this is a company that um, knock on wood, you can hit some strong results. I think that the share price has a long way to go, especially considering you're trading at cash, 700,000 ounces of historical, but lots of upside to that.
Yeah.
In great jurisdictions, Ontario, Quebec, you know, tons of tailwinds in the sector, I think, and strong support from shareholders as well, right? Eric Sprott, as you mentioned.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
if I could give a comment about Eric, he's just been a great person. We talked about this transformation that we're going to go through,
mhm,
and every time we've looked at a property and said we basically talked to Eric and said, are we okay doing this Hawkins near Timmins? Are we okay with part? And it was all just, yeah, let's
yep.
go. Right? So yeah, so super pleased to have this support. Yeah.
Yeah. And the timing again is great. I think for an investor in the gold mining sector, precious metal sector, a lot of these names have doubled or tripled or whatever in the last, handful of months or years. And here's an opportunity. Yes, Exploits has done well over the last 2 years, but you're still trading at cash, right? There's tons of
Who's
opportunity.
who's
And it's, the whole story has transformed from the Newfoundland sort of newfound gold property story to now, not greenfields, but I guess brownfields exploration across several assets that are highly prospective historical resources and so on. So timing couldn't be better. With that, Jeff, did you have any closing remarks for the viewers?
Well, first of all, I just want to say thanks, Ben. Thanks for
Of course.
doing this with me. I know that we this is just a perfect time to kind of start watching us if you don't know us. Please go to our website. We're really doing hopefully a lot of things that make sense to kind of as you talked about, Ben. Creating that platform for growth. We've got a great projects with a great pipeline. Again, trading near pro forma cash value, maybe slightly under. So when you look at that perspective, and then with the drill program coming up, that creates a lot of excitement. We are getting great people to support us, like Brian London, Chris Temple, others that will be coming up. So super pleased with the support. It's always nice to get a bit of validation of take these things take time,
Yep.
and but certainly pleased that we're getting rewarded in small ways right now. Hopefully big ways in the new year,
Hmm.
and hope to make everyone pleased with what we're doing. So yeah, so that's kind of like my closing comments. So continue to
Yeah.
watch this. I think we've got a great story. We're going to have more news, as you mentioned, a lot of news coming out January, February, March in the new year. And if gold continues to keep going up, I mean, we're just so well positioned. Yeah.
No, I completely agree. And again, a catalyst-filled Q1 is what investors want to see. So again, thanks for the time today, Jeff. For our followers, if you haven't seen our research on exploits, you can find it on our website at atriumresearch.ca. And again, thanks for the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, man.